Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I'm going to be talking about American politics, specifically how millennials voted in the 2016 election, how the millennials have continued to vote in 2017, and what those numbers now mean for the two major political parties in the United States of America. All right, so George Eliot Morris, a very, very smart writer, he is a millennial, wrote a piece in the New York Times. And what he did was he looked at sourced statistics for how millennials voted in the 2016 election, and he drew some conclusions which I think are absolutely right. So one of the things he found was that millennials in the 2016 election, presidential election, voted, if you took all the millennials in America, 43% of the millennials that were eligible to vote voted. 43%. That means that overall, millennials elected, if you take the majority, millennials elected not to vote. And that had dire consequences for millennials, okay? And one of the things that George Eliot Morris pointed out is that baby boomers voted at a rate of 66%, 23 points higher than millennials, okay? And that what this meant was that, and actually this is another amazing statistic, baby boomers are now a smaller number in America than millennials. Millennials outnumber baby boomers. But in this last election, if you're paying attention and you look at the numbers, baby boomers decided the fate of millennials because millennials chose not to vote, in mass. If you say, okay, millennials as a group, are you going to vote or are you going to not vote? Their answer is no, right? Their overall answer. That means that if you take, if you just pull a millennial out of the crowd, they're more likely to not vote than vote, right? Now, that is staggering. That is a staggering truth, right? And both the red team and the blue team need to pay attention and need to plan for this for the 2020 election, right? Now, okay, so red team, blue team. So we're talking about American politics, okay? If you don't know who's blue and who's red, I'm going to explain it real quick. So the red team in American politics, there's two major parties in American politics, and the red one is the party that's name starts with the same letters as red, R-E. So both their color and their party name both have the first two letters as R-E. The other side is the blue team. Okay. All right. So the red team did not put any of their hopes on millennials in this last election. They really didn't. They did virtually nothing to win the millennial vote, in my opinion. There was nobody playing saxophone on Arsenio, right? Or the equivalent thereof. The blue team put a huge amount of hopes and dreams and on millennials in the last election, and that did not pan out. That did not pan out. And so in 2020, the blue team has some really. So actually, I'm going to be making a prediction. Okay, so here's what that prediction is suppositioned on. So in the 2016 election, the blue team had the joy of just laughing and laughing and laughing at the red team's circus of a primary. On the red team, there were 16 candidates. It looked like a circus. And the blue team just laughed and laughed. They go, that party doesn't know who they want to vote for. They don't know what their platform is. It's a hot mess, right? And it was very challenging. And it was hard seeing what the red team was going through with that kind of chaos in his primary. Well, I am predicting that the blue team is going to be exactly there in 2020, right? And the reason why is right now, the blue team doesn't know its platform. And that's why we had so many that's why the red team had so many candidates in the 2016 election. It's because the red team really didn't know its platform. It was still fighting over what do we really believe as a party, right? And honestly, I believe the red team electoral candidate, he did not solidify that, right? He did not solidify what the red team's actual platform was. What he did was he very tactically and politically won that election by knowing the landscape, knowing what needed to be done in order to get, and actually he didn't even know what it needed. He didn't even know, in my opinion, the red team electoral candidate from 2016 did not even know how to win an election. What he did know was how to see a goal, how to set that goal, and how to achieve that goal, right? And those are general principles that he used, right? And you know, it was accomplished, right? Now, the blue team has a very, very hard choice to make coming up. And one of the things is, what is your platform, right? The blue team has to decide what their platform is, right? And here's going to be the fight. It's going to be, hey, do we stick with what we believe, okay? And then get the people that platform is going to get, which is generally millennials and groups very similar to millennials, who the majority of them don't vote. That's what the numbers say now. Or do we change our platform, abandon some of the things we believe, and pick up some of the things that will actually attract voters from the red team? And I will tell you right now, I don't believe for 1 second that the blue team is going to do that. They're not. Okay? And I think what's going to happen is they're going to honor play. So I've talked about honor play in the past, right? They're going to say we'd rather lose with our real principles than win with principles that we don't really believe in. And that's my prediction. So I'm predicting now, I think 2020, blue team's going to lose again. And, and I want to be super clear. I did not vote for the red team electoral candidate in 2016, nor did I vote for the blue candidate in 2016. I did a write-in. In Pennsylvania, you have the ability to do a write-in, and so that's what I did. I voted for Albert Mohler. He is one of the wisest guys out there today. He has a podcast. He covers news on a daily basis. Brilliant guy. Check him out. All right. So I think George Elliott Morris's article is a must-read. It is absolutely fantastic. Take a look. And the reality is, when you see those very hard numbers, right now is the time to be looking at those and deciding what you're going to do, you know, and the blue team has a lot of work to do. I would say they have a lot of prayer to do, but prayer isn't one of the biggest, it's not one of their strong points. It's not on their platform. So, George Elliott Morris's article bringing forward that millennials voted at a rate of 43% in the 2016 election, and that baby boomers voted at a rate of 66% in the 2016 election, means that baby boomers, who are outnumbered by millennials, were able to determine the fate of millennials throughout the country because of their conviction to voting. And that is amazing. I just want to call out a couple other things on this, right? The ramifications of these numbers are incredible, okay? Here's the next thing that needs to be understood about those numbers, right? At the state and election, oh my gosh. At the local and state level, millennials vote at a rate of 21%. 21%. Which means that if every single millennial who is willing to vote, who demonstrated that they were willing to vote in 2020, votes if every single millennial who demonstrated that they were willing to vote in 2016 votes in 2020, they won't matter. because they're not a majority. The majority of them don't vote. It's way worse in electoral and state elections, right? So, it is staggering, and the blue team has to wrestle with this because a lot of their energy and their voice and their momentum comes from a group who is standing with them and picketing with them and writing articles for them, but is not showing up at the polls. And that is staggering. Like, that has got to be addressed, okay? The other thing is, if you're out there and you're a savvy political wonk type, you're going to say, well, you know what? The Democrats, the blue team, actually won the popular vote, okay? Which is really interesting, right? But that doesn't help. That makes the situation even worse, right? It makes it way worse for the blue team. It's so bad, right? Like, so if you're saying, so then what that means is that then the blue team really has to wrestle with, how did we lose the election, the 2016 election, if the person who we were competing against had zero political experience, and the person that the red team electoral candidate was running against was one of the most experienced blue team politicians alive, like has gone through multiple elections, and had absolute political experience. That's almost worse than dealing with losing the political vote, because that means you were completely politically outmaneuvered, and the blue team needs to say, okay, all right, we need to understand this. What actually happened? Okay, so we took one of our most experienced politicians who's been studying statistics, the Electoral College, has an intact political team who are not rookies, and was outmaneuvered by someone who had just now built their team. That's stunning. Like, that's just like, the blue team is going to be the red team in 2020. They're going to have 16 plus candidates, and there's going to be a brutal daggers out fight on what the platform for the blue team will be. And that's going to be hard. That's going to be very, very hard for the blue team. And I truly am predicting that the real question the blue team is going to have to say is, all right, do we as the blue team, do we pick up positions that will win red team members so that we can actually win this election? Or do we stay true to the groups who have proven that by and large they vote in numbers that are less than 50%, which is what's 51%, which is what is mathematically required to win an election, right? And I think they're gonna honor play. They're gonna stay true to their values, and they're gonna tank on the 2020 election. Because right now, I listen to a lot of podcasts and I read a lot about what the blue team is doing, and you do not see almost anyone. You might see one or two people in that party right now saying we need to adopt positions that are going to win red voters, but they are few and far between, and there are incredibly few people on the blue team saying we need to build the type of wherewithal that will allow us to win this election. And I do have sympathy for the blue team, because that's a hard place to be in, right? And man, when you looked at the beginning of that crowd at the beginning of the 2016 election with 16 candidates, to tell the truth, I guess it wasn't that hard. I mean, I had hope for multiple people within that group that I thought would be really solid. The red team electoral candidate was not the guy I was expecting to take it all the way. Really interesting. So definitely check out George Elliott Morris's story. Take care.